Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at Noon.
A woman on her way to her children's school for a field trip is killed in an accident in Lincoln County.
Investigators find more human remains in a Lexington field. I'll have an update coming up in a live report.
And we're looking outside at the moment and seeing a lot of sunshine in some locations, not all. But as we work our way through the day, it's going to be a cool one, and then we get the really cold air the next couple of days. It could bring us some snow. I'll talk all about that and really jot down who's going to be seeing the snow, and maybe even some accumulation. WKYT News at Noon starts right now.
Good afternoon. It's a busy day at WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Barbara Bailey. We're learning more about the victim of a deadly crash in central Kentucky.
Police say a car collided with a tractor trailer about 8 o'clock this morning on Highway 150 in Crab Orchard. A woman who was on her way to her child's field trip was killed. WKYT's Phil Pendleton is in Lincoln County with the details, and that's our top story at noon. Phil?
The coroner just told me that the victim in this crash is 34-year-old Jessica Mobberly of Crab Orchard. She was apparently on her way to Crab Orchard Elementary School. That's where her children attend. She was going to go on a field trip when something happened here at this intersection and her truck collided with a tractor trailer. Now, why that happened is not exactly known. Police say there were no witnesses other than the tractor trailer driver. Police say Mobberly was headed north on 643 and the truck was headed west on 150 when the two collided.
Pickup truck was crossing over US 150 when it made contact with a semi-truck. One person has died at the scene of this accident.
Now, when I was on my way to the accident scene, I noticed there was a great deal of fog in this area, but whether that was a factor is not known. In Lincoln County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Phil, thank you very much. We're told that the truck driver was not hurt in the crash. Well, a third suspect in Lexington's latest murder case is behind bars this midday. Savon Thompson was arrested late yesterday for complicity to commit murder. He is charged in the shooting death of Jeffrey Adams on McCullough Drive earlier this month. Nathan Miller and an unnamed juvenile are also charged with complicity in the case.
Investigators are searching for clues in a Lexington field this midday. The Fayette County coroner says the remains were discovered last night near Citation Boulevard, not far from the Newtown Pike intersection. The rest of the body was found this morning. WKYT's Whitney Wetzel is live now with the latest on the death investigation. Whitney.
Investigators say it didn't take long to find the rest of those remains once they got back on scene this morning. The remains were first discovered around 7 o'clock yesterday in this field off Citation Boulevard. Coroner Gary Genn says they were found about 500 feet from the road. He says animals likely scattered pieces of the body, but all of the parts were found in the same area. This property is owned by the Lexington Fayette Urban County government and is considered a floodplain. Genn says there had been a homeless camp set up somewhere on this property, but because of how decomposed the remains are, he says it will be difficult to identify the man.
We will be looking at missing persons to see if this is possibly one of those individuals, but there are a lot of those that's on the log right now. Eastern State Hospital, you can see it just beyond the trees. We'll be checking with Eastern State to see if there's any patients that are missing or walkaways.
Now again, the coroner says it's hard to answer a lot of questions because of how decomposed this body is, but he does think that the remains have been here anywhere from 6 to 9 months. At this stage, there aren't any clues that give investigators an idea of how this person died. Live in Lexington, Whitney Wetzel, WKYT.
Again says the remains will be sent to Frankfort. From there, they'll go to Knoxville for a forensic anthropologist to review. We have new details to pass along this midday from a murder case in western Kentucky. The suspect's roommates tell a Nashville TV station that he and the man who survived the brutal attack knew each other for years. But Ryan Champion maintains he only met Vito Reservato a week before the murder, that is. Champion's parents and sister were shot to death inside their Trigg County home over the weekend. He was there at the time and says he was able to escape. Reservato also was found shot to death. State police have not said if Reservato killed himself.
A former Kentucky lawmaker and candidate for governor wants his guilty plea in a murder case thrown out. Steve Nunn is serving a life sentence for the 2009 murder of his former fiancée, Amanda Ross. But he now wants a new trial, claiming his attorney failed him. WKYT's Victor Puente has been tracking that case from inside the courtroom, and he is live with the latest on Nunn's request. Victor?
In 2011, Steve Nunn pleaded guilty to killing his former fiancée, Amanda Ross. But today he's trying to get that plea thrown out, saying his attorney at the time gave him some bad advice. Amanda Ross was shot outside of her Lexington townhome in September of 2009. Hours after the shooting, Steve Nunn was arrested at his parents' gravesite in Hart County with self-inflicted wounds to his wrist. Since then, not only did he plead guilty to Ross's murder, he was also found responsible for her death in a wrongful death lawsuit in order to pay almost $24 million. Nunn's attorney at the time of his guilty plea, Warren Scoville, took the stand to talk about the reasons behind the plea. He said Diana Ross's attorney had made a deal to drop the civil suit if Nunn pleaded guilty, a move he agreed with.
Best case scenario would have been if we could have convinced the jury that he was suffering from extreme emotional disturbance, and the jury would have either gotten 10 years or 20 years.
That deal over the civil suit was never put on paper. Scoville said it was a handshake deal. That suit was never dropped. Now, Nunn has a public defender currently. He was found indigent. This hearing is expected to last all day. Live in Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Thank you very much. And Nunn is also appealing the decision of that civil suit.
It's another chilly fall day in the Bluegrass with mostly sunny skies, making it feel a little warmer this afternoon. But brace yourself, that dreaded four-letter word is creeping into our forecast for Halloween. WKYT meteorologist Micah Harris is live in our First Alert Weather Center now with a look ahead. Micah.
Well, the look ahead is a pretty cold look. I mean, outside right now, it's on the cool side because we do have some clouds laying around, but I still expect to see some mixture of sun and clouds in toward the afternoon. Right now, 40s and 50s. It kind of depends on where you are. 46 in Mount Sterling and 48 in Richmond. Then you have 48 down in Jackson, and then everywhere else, for the most part, sitting there in the 50s. So as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon, we're going to have that mixture of sun and clouds. And around here in Lexington, we haven't really had a break. So hopefully we can start to see a little separation of those clouds. But don't expect any rain to fall out of that. It's a cool one in store. Mixture of sun and clouds, 55 degrees. Going toward Halloween, that's going to be our focus, and all eyes are on that 6 to 8 p.m. time frame. And after that, for the big Garth Brooks concert, we got a lot going on. And a lot of winter weather to talk about, too. It's a little early for it, but hey, it's Kentucky, right? And I'll show you what you can expect out of this and when coming up in a few minutes.
Okay, Micah, we'll see you then with those details. The general election is now just 5 days away, and it is going down as the most expensive in history. More than $4 billion has been spent on behalf of candidates nationwide. Nearly $100 million of that is right here in Kentucky's U.S. Senate race. Meanwhile, incumbent Republican Mitch McConnell and his Democratic challenger Allison Lundergan Grimes continue to hit the campaign trail hard. Former Secretary of State, U.S. Senator, and First Lady Hillary Clinton will campaign with Grimes at events in Lexington and northern Kentucky this weekend. The Lexington event will be Saturday afternoon on the lawn of Old Morrison at Transylvania University. She'll be at the Bank of Kentucky Center on the Northern Kentucky University campus that morning. Former President Bill Clinton stumped for Grimes in Louisville this morning, and they're spending their lunch hour right now in Ashland. Meanwhile, the Republican McConnell is continuing his bus tour today, rolling through with stops in Louisville, Lexington, and Lebanon this afternoon. New details are emerging about the Centerpoint project in downtown Lexington. Millions of dollars in bonds will likely be sold before the first of the year. The Herald Leader is reporting that tax revenue generated from the $45 million development will be used to pay off the bonds. Meanwhile, work on the three-story underground parking garage has stalled. Developers say that a giant crane is needed to come in to continue the construction, and installing that crane at the downtown site would require Main Street to be closed for 2 days. The city says no dates have been set for that at this point.
Well, certainly a busy time of year.
It is. And speaking of that, a busy Halloween weekend, and the weather looks pretty tough, as Micah was saying.
A few communities will luck out because trick-or-treating is tonight. Folks in Bath, Estill, Fleming, and Powell counties will be handing out candy at various times tonight. But most cities will still do trick-or-treating tomorrow on Halloween. A couple of other cities will be waiting until Saturday. We have a complete list of dates and times on WKYT.com.